The story starts with Detective John. He is informed by Ming that they have come there to meet Kang. John says, "Tell me where he found the body." Kang says that it was about 67 years ago that I had buried a body. John says, "On whose advice did you do this?" Kang says, "How can I tell you so easily? What about the people who trust me?" Haga John gives some money to Kang, and then suddenly the local policeman catches Kang. The policeman asks John, "Are you a detective?" He says yes. The policeman tells John that he has murdered his girlfriend. After a few days, we see John. John gets a call from Kang. John says, "Why did you call me?" Kang says, "I have committed 7 murders." Hearing this, John reaches the local police station and comes there to get information from that policeman. The policeman who arrested Kang says that he told me that he had murdered 3 people. When we went there to look for evidence, we did not find anything there. He is just fooling us and wasting our time. We see the scene of the jail where Kang is kept. John comes there to meet Kang. Kang says all the evidence they have found against me is baseless. John says, "Didn't you kill your girlfriend, Kang?" Makes a drawing and says that right here you will find all the evidence. John asks Kang to tell me about the 6 bodies. Where are all those? Kang says, "I want something from you in return." John reaches the place told by him and he starts searching for that evidence. John finds a cloth there. We see in the next scene that all the people are gathered in the court. John tells the judge that this is the same thing that Kang told me. He finds out all that evidence. The evidence that John had brought in the court is all baseless. Kang had given the wrong information to John. Our scene shifts. We see Kang in jail writing something to John. Kang tells about his 7 bloodlines. Kang says that I get a lot of pleasure after killing people. John asks Kang, "When did you commit your first murder?" He says, "In childhood." John says, "How, when, and where?" Kang says, "Don't tell me anything right now. I want something in return. I want it." John says, "Why do you need all this?" He says, "I have to earn my respect here." John leaves there and reaches the place told to get information. The next day, John gets transferred to the police station. John meets his senior. His senior tells him to stop working on the old case and catch new people and tells him that he has heard about Sean Young. He was a policeman. He was killed by a psycho killer due to which he lost his home and job. Now he works in a parking lot. John goes to Kang's school to get information about him. His principal tells him that he stopped coming to school after his father died. John meets Kang's sister. His sister tells John that 10 years ago we had got some money for redevelopment, but he lost all that money in gambling and we had to be evicted from the house. John says that the house was in your father's name, so the death certificate was issued. Kang's sister says, "I don't know, he went fishing. Don't know whether he is alive or dead." John comes to Park. Kang says that he has killed you. Pak tells John that his "don't trust anything, he is a liar." John reaches jail to meet Kang and says Pak is alive. Kang says, "I am a little confused, maybe I have killed someone else." John gives him some money and glasses. "Hey," Kang says, "when I used to drive a taxi, a girl was drunk and came and sat in my taxi. Then he makes some drawings and says, 'You go here and see.' John says, "This time you told me wrong, so this will be our last meeting." Kang says, "Go to the grave and check, you will find somebody pieces." John says, "What do you get by doing all this?" Kang says, "I get a lot of pleasure from this." John reaches the place told by Kang and says, "This is the perfect place." John reaches the place where Kang used to drive a taxi and discovers that he never returned the taxi. John then reaches the house of the girl he murdered and meets her mother. It happens that the girl's mother tells John that I had filed a missing report for her, but till now I have not heard anything about her. Her mother asks, "Will you help me?" John says, "I will do whatever I can." We see the scene. The same girl comes and sits in Kang's taxi. Kang tries to talk to the girl, but the girl tells Kang not to talk nonsense with you. Then Kang gets angry and drives the car in a very strange manner. That girl says, "I have to get down." You stop the car. He takes the girl out of the car. Then he turns the car around and kills the girl by hitting her with the car. We come to the present scene. John, the entire police force. After searching a lot, they all find nothing there. Then John Sr. says that there is nothing here, we have to leave from here, saying everyone leaves from there with Kang. Jan stops there and after a lot of searching, they find a human bone there. John takes the evidence to Jean, who is a lawyer. Jean says, "Have you sent it to forensics to be checked?" John says yes. We see John interrogating Kang. Under Jean's watch, John asks Kang where the rest of the body parts are hidden. Kang says, "When did I say this?" John shows the photo of that girl and asks Kang, "Did you put her in your taxi?" The Na says, "I don't know who this girl is. You had given me money to write all this, and I had done this work on someone's advice." The forensic report shows that it is an unknown person who died 10 years ago. John tells Jean that he wants to mix his DNA with his mother's DNA. Jean says that even if the DNA report is correct, it will not be enough. John comes to meet the policeman about whom John Sr. had told him earlier, and the retired policeman says that he is after your money. He tells John that such criminals are very smart. They are arrested for a case, they confess to the crime, and in some cases, then after listening to the conversation, they start investigating a case and then find out that the person who confessed to the crime is not guilty because you don't have the evidence and he will be freed, and he says you should leave the case. John gets a call from Even, and he tells her that her DNA doesn't match her mother's. John and Yoon start going to every police station and looking for information from all the reports of Kang's cases. They get a report in which they find out how he committed the murder. Our scene shifts to the past. A boy bumps into Kang. The boy says to Kang, "Can't you see and walk away?" The boy walks away. Kang comes after him, catches him, and stabs him in the neck with a knife. Kang attacks him in the waist, and Kang throws the boy down the stairs. Kang burns the boy's body. Then the water pipe there breaks due to the heat of the fire, and water starts falling from it. Kang burns the boy's body. In the meantime, Kang's jacket catches fire and his jacket gets damaged. John and Yoon set out to search for the jacket. After searching for Kafir, they find the jacket. John reaches Jean with all the evidence. He asks Jean if can recreate the crime scene again, to which Jean agrees. John comes to the jail to ask Kang, "Will you come?" Kang says yes, but you can't prove it by doing all this drama. We see Kang being taken to the same place where he had committed the murder. Then there he shows everyone how he had committed the murder. In the next scene, we see the witnesses being interrogated by Kang's lawyer in the court. Asks Kang that for the first time you met John, and then he starts coming to meet him. Kang says yes. Kang's lawyer says that Kang was paid for this work. No evidence against Kang can prove him guilty. Due to this, the court acquits Kang. And in the next scene, we see that John gets transferred. John is leaving from there, and then his eyes fall on the photos. In those photos, he sees an ID. With his help, Kang gets transferred. Mijin's girlfriend is found out. John arrives to find out about Mijin, where Mijin used to work. John finds out that suddenly one night she disappears and then never comes back, and she tells John about her. There was also a boy who had now grown up. John comes to meet that child. Our scene shifts to the past. We see Mijin and her child. Mijin tells her child that if you feel hungry, you can order something. She sees him and leaves from there. Mijin and Kang are in a car. Mijin says, "I want to go back to my old house, and if you don't want to, then I won't go." We see Kang kill Mijin and her body. Puts half of his body in a bag, throws half of his body into the sea, and buries the other half of the body. Our scene shifts to the present. John comes to Kang's sister for questioning. John tells Kang's sister that it is too much time. Kang's sister tells us that you will not be punished for this. Then our scene shifts to the past. She comes from school and sees things in the house broken and scattered. Kang's sister asks, "Where did Papa go?" Kang says that he went to drive the boat. We see that Kang has murdered his father. Our scene shifts to the present. Kang's sister says that she did not say anything to anyone because of fear, thinking that she would kill us. We'll run away from people. We see the court scene where Jean asks Mijin's son. She asks him why he did not find his mother. Mijin's son says that people told him your mother was married to a man named Kang. She has run away with me and she doesn't care about me. That's why I hate her so much. Jean asks the boy you are talking about, "Is this the same Kang?" And he looks at Kang and says yes. Then the court all. After listening to the conversation, he sentences Kang to life imprisonment. How did you like this explanation? Tell me by commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching. We will meet in the next video.